A family-divided wedding and a relationship ender. That's right, this story has it all. I'm about to read you a story about an extravagant wedding. Well, that didn't go as planned. My sister Anne, she's 29 and has been my best friends with Ruby, 30F as long as I, 25, can remember. So growing up, Ruby was like a second big sister to me. One thing that's important to note is that Ruby has always had the most outrageous fashion sense possible. She's the person that would honestly wear those runway outfits that you think no one would actually wear. Well, Anne got engaged pre-COVID. Almost as soon as it happened, she started being really weird to Ruby. When she made me maid of honor, I was kinda surprised because they've always sworn to be the maid of honor at each other's wedding. But I am her blood sister, so it really wasn't that weird. But I was completely blown away when she made a group chat, and I found out that Ruby wasn't even a bridesmaid. Both me and my mom tried to talk to her about it since we figured that they had an argument or something, but she would only say that Ruby did not care anyways. I know that Ruby was hurt, but she did not want any drama, so I agreed to let it go. Throughout the whole wedding process, my mom kept asking Anne if she would invite Ruby, if she would ask Ruby's opinion, etc., but Anne refused to have any contact with her or talk about anything wedding-related with her whatsoever. On Saturday, my sister was married. She had a beautiful outside, socially distanced wedding, but she was seething the whole time because of Ruby's dress. It wasn't at all outrageous by Ruby's standards, so I don't believe that she wanted to outshine my sister. She wore quite a simple wedding dress, but that was her choice. As maid of honor, I of course went to her fitting, and that was literally the one she chose. Anne has been cursing Ruby out and saying that their friendship is over ever since. Finally, I just said that she's been friends with Ruby most of her life, and she knows what she dresses like, and that she should have expected this. If it was that much of a problem, she should have found a way to mention it to her, or just made her a bridesmaid. Well, Anne lost it with me. She sent Ruby some really horrible messages after she screamed at me. She didn't say a word to me all of yesterday, but she was bad-mouthing me to our dad, who is on her side. My mom has told Anne that she should apologize to Ruby for the nasty messages she sent, and for yelling at me, so Anne isn't talking to her either. I don't even know what's going on, but Ruby swears on her life that they didn't have an argument or anything pre-COVID. Anne says that's none of my business, and I should be supporting my, quote, real sister. My dad agrees with her, and she's rallied the other bridesmaids against me, so I don't know. Am I the a-hole? What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're all having an amazing day. This story has quite a few updates, and let me just tell you, things is not getting better, and I'm about to drop a crucial bomb in this upcoming update. Don't forget to click that subscribe button so you never miss any future videos. Let's jump right into it. Based on some of the advice I'm receiving, I was going to tell Anne this morning how much she means for me and that I'm there for her. But she's seething again, so I'm not trying to. Dave asked me if I could talk to Anne because they've also apparently had a massive fight because he tried to defend Ruby on the wedding night. He asked me if I could explain where he misstepped and how to make it up to her. This is the first time he's ever asked me for help with their relationship, so he's clearly at a loss. I said I was just as confused, and we didn't even know why she wasn't in the bridal party, so he should try to just talk it out with Anne. This is when things start to get weird. Dave said that the reason Ruby wasn't in either wedding party was because he wanted her as a best woman, and Anne wanted her as a maid of honor. But Anne would not budge and said that they should just drop her from both parties to be fair. He said that she explained it to Ruby, and that's why they had a huge fight, because Ruby wanted to be included. I said okay, and just hung up, but the more I think about it, the more confused I am. If they had a massive fight about Ruby being maid of honor, surely Ruby would have remembered. Also, I don't know why Dave would want Ruby as his best woman, when to my understanding he only met her after he started dating Anne. I really am just taking your advice not to meddle to heart, which is a nightmare because now my curiosity is totally piqued. So I won't bring it up. It's possible that this is all I've ever known, and this will bug me to the grave, but I've made a vow not to push Anne anymore on the fact. Thank you everyone for your kind comments and help. Thank you to all the not the a-hole people for reassuring me that I'm not the one acting crazy. Thank you, you also are very helpful. Update number 2. I'm even more confused now than ever. Dave called me up about 30 minutes ago asking me in a very angry tone of voice if any of his groomsmen behaved inappropriately towards me. I asked what? And he asked me again. I could hear Anne in the background shouting something, and I said that they've been perfectly gentlemen at the wedding and that I hadn't had any contact with them since. He then asked me if Ruby knew that she was meant to be best woman. I said not to my understanding, but it was possible that I don't know, as both she and Anne had been quite secretive about what's happened between them, and that he'd better be off asking them himself. He laughed and hung up the phone. Since then, Ruby's texted me asking me what's happening and if I knew about the best woman maid of honor thing. Just now, I got a message from one of the bridesmaids saying that if Dave calls me, I should not answer him. Well, Anne's on the phone to my dad. Screaming, it sounds like. I have no clue what's going on, but I think somewhere in this mess is the truth of what actually happened. Everything seems to just be exploding. I now think that the bridesmaid, or at least that particular one, is involved. And if things keep happening at this pace, I think I should eventually find out what in the flying duck is going on. Update number 3. There's been a lot of shouting and tears today. Honestly, I'm exhausted, but so many people have commented for the update, so here it is. I'm still kind of in shock. Anne's been lying to just about everyone. The story I'm about to tell you is very complicated. This list actually is what I used to wrap my head around it. It's all the facts I have in chronological order. Number 1. Dave's been to jail and is an ex-drug addict. He met Ruby before he met Anne. After he recovered, he was really struggling with money, and Ruby helped him out a lot. He considers her to be one of his closest friends and allies. Number 2. 2 years later, Dave was doing well at his job and much more stable and functional. Around this time, Ruby introduced him to Anne. Number 3. Anne was reluctant to have a relationship with Dave because of his past, but she had strong feelings for him. Eventually, they began dating, but she was still too ashamed of the person he used to be. So, she told us that they met over a dating app. Dave consented to this at the time, just so you guys know. Number 4. As Dave became comfortable with himself and the relationship became more serious and blossoming, he told Anne that she needed to be honest with us about his history. She agreed to tell us, but she didn't. She told Dave that she had wrote a fake letter from my family about how we were really grateful for his honesty and accepted him. She told Ruby that my parents had reacted really badly, so Ruby never brought it up, because, well, she thought it was still a very sensitive topic. Number 5. When Dave proposed, Anne started freaking out about the wedding. Dave wanted people from his support group to be there, Ruby as his best woman, etc., which would expose all the secrets that they've been hiding. But she still did not want to tell us who Dave was or Dave that she had lied to him. So she decided to continue lying instead of coming clean. And number 6. So, Anne pretended to be really upset that she could not have Ruby as her maid of honor, so she could make the argument that she should just be dropped from both wedding parties. She told Dave that she had explained their decision to Ruby and that Ruby had taken issues with it to keep him happy. In reality, she knew that if Ruby knew she was meant to be the best woman, it could easily get back to me and my mom, and then raise questions from us about Ruby's relationship with Dave. So she didn't tell Ruby anything at all, and that's why Ruby was so confused about what happened, and couldn't think of anything. Anne told Dave and all of his friends from his support group that they should not mention the addiction in speeches or even casual conversations, because it was a sensitive subject for certain family members before the wedding. Told the bridesmaids so many lies about Ruby. She told them that she had a habit of causing scenes, that she was going to try to sleep with the groomsmen. that one of them was an ex-boyfriend of hers that dumped her, that she would get way too drunk and not be able to control. Essentially, she painted Ruby as a disaster waiting to happen so the bridesmaids wouldn't like her, and also so they could keep her away from certain people, specifically the ones who also knew Dave at the wedding. Anne also told the bridesmaid that the only reason Ruby was invited is because I idolize her, so they would repeat any of the lies she told me. Number 7. After the wedding, Anne put on her enormous meltdown about the dress. The bridesmaids obviously did not have a very positive opinion on Ruby, so they were easy to convince that it was meant as a genuine slight. My dad did what Anne apparently expected everyone to do, by caving immediately because she was the bride. If me and my mom had done the same, Anne would have basically used it as an excuse to cut Ruby out of everyone's life. So, number 8. She tried to do the same thing with Dave's groomsmen, but insisted to him that they had said inappropriate things about the bridesmaids. The idea was to basically remove anybody that knew the truth about Dave from the general social circle so it would not come up. Number 9. Dave smelt a rat. He asked what exactly the issue was with Ruby's dress and what exactly his friends had said. Anne panicked and accused him of not loving her, choosing his friends over her, and it turned into a massive argument. Dave was mad and very suspicious, so he started calling people up and trying to figure out what happened. Number 10. A couple of the bridesmaids said that Anne was telling the truth about the groomsmen. She asked and pressured them too, but most were kind of weirded out by the request, and I think they successfully got the across to Dave. He called me to ask if I knew what was going on, and told Dave that I was just like him, caring about Ruby more than her, and also that I wasn't there when it happened. But the timing of the story simply did not match up, so Dave called me anyways. That was a weird phone call, to say the least. Number 11. At this point, he knew she was spouting BS, so we asked her up front what's going on, and she broke down and told Dave everything. Number 12. He was fuming. He texted us all to let us know about his past and then basically kicked Anne out. She came to us where she then had to explain again everything. Anne is absolutely shaken. I never considered her capable of this kind of deception and manipulation, and I don't think she's ever done something like this before. Contrary to what some commenters seem to believe, I don't hate my sister. I feel sorry for her, even though I'm really hurt by what she did, because she feels so guilty and absolutely miserable, because she's worried that things will never be worked out with Dave. She's gone to bed now very upset because our mom won't even look at her. She's fuming that Anne would deceive and hurt her and so many other people like this. I do understand where she's coming from. My dad is also very shocked and hurt. Anne texted Ruby. She sent her a message explaining and apologizing, but obviously Ruby's really angry and upset. She just told her that she could not speak to her right now, but maybe she'd call her in the morning once they both had a chance to calm down. Dave's probably the most hurt out of everyone, and I understand why. He wouldn't speak to Anne, but he did tell me that he really thought that he had our acceptance, and that the letter she had written to him had been his most treasured possession ever since he received it, and to find out it was a phony was absolutely crushing. I told him that we did accept him for who he was, and that nobody blamed him, but I don't think it helped too much. He has asked for distance from our family, and I understand why. I'm not sure when he'll be willing to speak to Anne again or if he wants to be her husband after this. I wouldn't blame him if he goes on to find someone else. Final updates. The past 2 weeks have been very stressful. Anne and my mom have been fighting and crying for most of it. We've learned that this deception of Anne was not out of the blue. She had this obsession with her image for a very long time. She confessed a lot of stuff from secondary school and her job. Some of it's worrying, and some of it's really scary and manipulative. I feel so distant from the person she's become. There's tension between us that I'm not sure will ever go away, even though it really pains me as well because she's my sister. Once my dad heard some of the revelations, he decided that Anne should go to a therapist. Anne really struggled against the decision, which led to a massive fight between her and my dad. I've never seen my dad so angry. Neither has she, which is probably why she eventually agreed. The therapist is supposed to help Anne process her emotions after everything that's happened, and also hopefully get to the root of her problems. A lot of the comments suggested that our family wasn't healthy, and the way we interact with each other. I'm conflicted on this because on one hand, me and my mom were right that something was very wrong, but then that doesn't mean that we did not behave badly, if that makes sense. So I suggested family therapy. My parents are looking into it. Hopefully we can learn a bit more about boundaries in each other and eventually move on from this. Anne has been talking a lot to Ruby. From the sounds of it, Ruby is still very upset, but I've been taking the advice not to meddle so much in their relationship, and I'm leaving them to it. Me and Ruby still speak a lot, but not about Anne. Dave sent a message 2 days ago that I really think has sadly resolved this very terrible situation. After learning that this is part of a pattern of behavior, he doesn't think he wants to be in a marriage with Anne at all, as he feels that she hasn't only hurt him deeply, but deceived him about the type of person she is. I know from Ruby that he's also seeking therapy, and has confided in friends about what happened. So he has a strong support system around him. I'm not getting involved with him other than that, as I think he deserves distance from family after everything that's happened. But knowing he's okay does make me feel a bit better. Anne has taken this news badly. When she first got the message, I think she had a panic attack. She was breathing rather quickly and shaking and crying. She knows that Dave learned about her past from Ruby and is absolutely furious with Ruby for telling him. She's just preoccupied with thoughts of being someone's divorced. She is the fact that Dave is leaving her. I really hope that the therapist helps her get better, and although I'm not taking it as hard as my mom, I do feel guilty for not noticing this sooner because she's just not well. Okay, so here's one of the top comments. Feel free to drop your comments down below how you think about it, and here's what this top comment says. This is by far one of the wildest stories yet. I was so glad to hear OP say that Dave has a good support system, and that her family tried to do their best by him, expressing their support but not contacting him unless he initiated it. I hope he's doing okay. He has all the sympathy and then some. It's just such a bizarre story because really, OP's family does not come off as weird and toxic. OP seems very down to earth, and no one wants to meddle or duck up someone's relationship. They seem to respect each other's boundaries and all seem pretty mellow. And then there's Anne. And yeah, people often mistake themselves or look better than they are, but they usually still betray themselves in some way. And that just does not happen here. And there have been a ton of updates. I really think the rest of the family is made up of decent people who have been totally blindsided, and that Anne maybe has a mental issue no one's recognized yet. Therefore, read everyone's behavior as someone other than it was. I wish I knew. If someone did an intense psych study of Anne and wrote it up, I would read the absolute duck out of it. The amount of deceit, manipulation, lying. It is genuinely mind-boggling, and I think that was so compelling about the post was that you were finding out about it in real time, along with OP. Mind blown. So guys, let me know in the comment section, what do you think of that comment, and also how did you interpret the story? And is this character, Anne, as bad as the comments are saying? Drop your thoughts down below. We still have one more story to cover. The title is, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for college? For a child I have no obligation of anymore. So I'm 50 male, legally have 3 children with my ex, who's 51. Adam, 23 male, Chris, 21 male, and Sophie, 18 female. Biologically, the first 2 children are mine, and the youngest is a result of my wife's infidelity. I discovered this the day when Sophie was 2 years old, and we had to rush Sophie to the emergency room. Well, I filed for divorce 2 months later. I got a 50-50 custody of my own children, but since Sophie was legally mine, I had to pay child support for her and was very bitter and resentful about it. I tried to fight it at first, but in the end decided to suck it up and save myself the stress. But I made it very clear to my ex that outside of child support, I would take no other responsibility for the girl and would shut down any attempts at being her father. But I would make the effort to still be polite to Sophie. After some time, I learned to trust again and remarried a wonderful woman who made it very clear that she and her daughter were a package deal. I accepted this and did everything I could to try to be there for my stepdaughter Katie, who's 17. Aside from the typical ups and downs, I would say I've managed to make a great family life for myself. We'd had family nights. I'd attend most of the school events, take my family on fun vacations, and put my sons through school and paid for their apartments and cars. They're on their own, though, for gas money. Chris is expected to graduate this coming summer, and I made a silly post on social media about how relieved I was going to be that I only had one more kid to put through school. A couple days later, I got a message from my ex asking me to pay for Sophie's college expenses on my own, since the pandemic has made the money tight. I asked her what she meant and referred to my post. I reminded her that my legal obligations to Sophie ended the day she turned 18. I'm talking about Katie. My ex was furious, demanding to know why I was willing to pay for Katie and not Sophie, since neither of them are biologically mine. I countered by saying that I knew up front Katie wasn't my bio child and agreed to care for her instead of being conned into doing it like I was with Sophie. After I got a call from Sophie asking what she did to make me hate her so much and to leave her feeling so excluded, I told her softly that I don't hate her and nothing about this situation is at all her fault. But the simple truth is that it wasn't personal. I'm just not her father. Since then, my sons have told me that Sophie was becoming really depressed. My ex is blaming me, but I don't see what I have to do with it. Am I the a-hole? And yes, all the kids know why I divorced their mother. Update number 1. Thanks to everyone for their kind words of support. A lot of you have suggested therapy, and for the longest time, I've never felt like I needed it. But after everything new that's happened, I've decided that talking to a professional won't hurt. I thought I buried my anger and hurt towards my ex years ago, but now new information has been revealed that just makes me angry all over again. Not too long after my initial fight with my ex, she and Sophie got into a fight that ended up so bad that Sophie was kicked out of her home. Sophie called her brothers, and they in turn called me, and she's currently staying with my wife Katie and I. Apparently, in spite of my efforts to maintain a boundary, my ex kept telling Sophie that if she was well-behaved and did good in school, that I would think of her as a daughter again. It was my ex's way of getting Sophie to be obedient. When I made my post, Sophie thought I was finally giving her the validation that my ex had always promised, and when I didn't, it created mass chaos. Sophie called my ex horrible names and demanded to know who her bio father was. My ex refused and told her if she was going to be disrespectful, she had to live somewhere else. Originally, some of you suggested that in spite of Sophie's blood type, she could still be my daughter, and that was really starting to get to me. Now that Sophie was staying with me, I took some of her DNA and sent it off for testing. I couldn't believe my eyes at the results, and I sent again for a second time. To my shock, Sophie and I are related. She's just not my daughter. Like I said, the bad feelings are all starting to come back to me again, but this new information's just putting me in a bad place again. I don't even know how or when to break the news to Sophie, or how to even confront my ex about this. That my brother is her father, I feel like such a damn fool. Okay, guys, here's the top comment for this one. Wow, I didn't see that twist coming at the end. It was OP's brother. Which would explain why the mother would never admit who she had sexual interactions with. It was her husband's brother. But it's almost always the brother. That's most likely the reason he would be distressed to learn him and the daughter are related. Guys, that was absolutely crazy. I did not see that coming at the end. I honestly believe that they did not know who the father was. Drop your thoughts down below, what you thought about this. Let me know. Did you see that plot twist come at the end? I didn't, like I said before. But guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as there's going to be multi-updated stories coming out this week, and I promise you, there's a mother-in-law story that you will not want to miss. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.